Welcome, everybody, to Train Tuesday. I want to thank you for joining us here tonight. If you're catching us on the YouTube at the previous broadcast, welcome aboard. If you're joining me tonight live on the live stream, welcome aboard. Let's do some shout outs and see who's joining us out here tonight. I see Dave Reynolds is in the house, Ron Randall, Delta 9, Kyle, George, DG Model Works is in the house, Jason, Late Night Model Railroad, Ronald, Gary, Randall, just to name a few. So I want to welcome you tonight. We're going to be talking about EMD switchers, specifically the SW1500s under the Athearn HO banner. And we're also going to be talking about some beverage trucks. So we've got some great stuff to talk about tonight. Now, one update that I wanted to let you guys know, you have until Friday, December 30th. So that's after Christmas, just before New Year's, to place your pre-orders. So let's do another round of shout outs. Looks like we've got some more folks joining us. We've got Daniel, Joseph, Butch, ATSF Venta Spur N Scaler. I bet you're firmly set in HO scale. That's sarcasm. Thomas, Southern 6900, Kyle, Dennis, and Reed Rail Productions, just to name a few. So thank you once again for joining us tonight. Got a lot of ground to cover. We're going to be talking, like I said, about the SW1500s and the beverage trucks. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with another Train Tuesday. Now, like I said, we're going to be talking about Athearn HO scale SW1500s. Now, we offered these last year, and these are brand new for the month of December. There we go. Apologize for the delay. We're having some wind out here in Illinois, so it's disrupting our bandwidth just a little bit. All right. So here is one from a previous release we did a few years ago. This was announced in October 2013. This is a Athearn UPY yard switcher 1064. We announced these back in October of 2013, and they were delivered in 2014. A little bit of background on the EMD SW1500. It's a 4-axle diesel switcher. It was a locomotive built by General Motors Electromotive Division between 1966 and 1974. It is similar in appearance to the EMD SW1000 model, which has a different engine and has one exhaust stack, while the SW1500 has two. A little spotting feature there. Power was provided by an EMD 645E 12-cylinder engine, which generated 1,500 horsepower. This locomotive was built on the same common frame as the SW1000, giving it an overall length of 44 feet 8 inches. The SW1500 featured a bulkier car body. It was a bit heavier from earlier models, although its intended use remained the same, that is, working on light branch lines or industrial settings. Now, many railroads regularly use the SW1500s for road freight service as well. So a little background on those and a few things to note on our version of the SW1500, of course, in HO scale. Now, a lot of these features weren't included in the model you see here. So here are some of the features that we've packed into the SW1500. These are going to include lit ground lights, a detailed cab interior, which is really important for you guys that are doing the shelf model route. You're going to have a lot of guys are mounting their HO scale switching layouts at about 54 inches from railhead to the floor. This really gives you an opportunity to detail the cab. Drop steps unless noted, MU stands, dual exhaust stacks, printed number boards, because I frankly don't want to decal those. I'm sure you don't either. Fine scale handrails. And there's now a newly designed can motor. It's going to be more powerful and quieter than before. Now, some of you folks that may have had the earlier renditions of this model may have noticed that the powertrain and motor combination wasn't the greatest. Well, we've upgraded that now. It's basically a Genesis motor and driveline. And so it's going to be a lot quieter, a lot more powerful, and of course, LED lighting throughout. Now, these are the retail prices. Contact your dealer for your price. But if you go the DC route, they're $224.99. If you go with a decoder and sound, which is the Soundtrax Economy, it's $249.99. So let's start with the roads that we're going to be offering in this run. We're going to start with Rock Island. Now we're doing 3 road names or road numbers with Rock Island. Now, Rock Island was a prolific user of switchers, and while the road owned many types of EMD or switchers, EMD was a favorite builder. The Rock owned a sizable group of EMD SW1500s, and when they went looking for additional switchers in 1966, they found that the SW1200 had been replaced in the catalog by the EMD SW1500. SW1500s were options much the same as the 1200s, having the same Flexicoil trucks, hood-mounted handrails, and paint scheme. Now, all of these outlasted the Rock and found employment elsewhere after that 1980 bankruptcy. So here's number 940. All these schemes in this run are going to be based on 1970s paint schemes. Here we have Rock Island 944 and 949. And as an added bonus for you tonight, we actually have a prototype picture taken by Dick Kolbs in 1967, May 7th of 1967 of 949. So just about a year after they had ordered these. Now, specific features for Rock Island in this run, these are going to have Flexicoil trucks, the firecracker antenna, large fuel tank, MU hoses, hood-mounted handrails, and of course the Nathan P5 horn. Up next is Union Pacific. A lot of you guys were asking for Union Pacific Red Sill era switchers. Like I said, we did the UPY switchers earlier. Now it was time to do some Red Sills for you guys. UP never actually purchased SW1500s. I didn't buy them new anyways, but they did ended up inheriting their fleet through mergers and secondhand acquisitions. So what we've got here is 3 different road numbers. These are all based on late 1990s era. Now, again, this was an era that a lot of you guys have been asking for in our product suggestion email. So here we have number 1011, 1014, and a prototype picture of 1014. Now, this picture was taken by Jim Boyd in August of 2007. So with some weathering, you can definitely bring this up into the 2000s. But as they come from the factory, these are going to be painted and lettered as they appeared in the late 1990s. And then finally, the last road number in this series, 1023. Now, as far as features, UP-specific features are going to be Flexicoil trucks, the firecracker antenna, large fuel tank, MU hoses, frame-mounted handrails, Nathan P3 horns, removed footboards on both ends, and the more modern loop-style cut levers. Now, if you've got questions on any of this, I'm going to ask you to hold back. When we get done talking about the SW1500s, I'll open up and see if you have any questions on these locomotives before progressing to the next segment. Right now, I don't always see all of your comments because I'm running different screens while I'm showing you these pictures. So up next is a road that really gets a lot of requests all of the time. You probably knew this was coming. Southern Pacific, of course. Between 1967 and 1973, Southern Pacific purchased one of their largest orders of SW1500s with over 200 units to help replace their aging fleet of Alco, Baldwin, and FM switchers. Unique SP spotting features included a large cab front mounted number board and SP's full front and rear lighting package. In the mid-1980s, two SW1500s, number 2539 and 2575, were repainted in the red and yellow Kodachrome scheme in anticipation of a merger with the Santa Fe. Both schemes were slightly different from one another, and only 2575 lasted in this scheme, retired just before the UP merger of 1996. As many were sold off for further use after the merger, UP retained some for use in areas with lighter track and local switch jobs that needed a smaller motive power. So we've got a couple of different paint schemes here. Now these are based on 1970s and 1986 paint schemes. The first one that we've got here, 2556. Again, this is based on 1970s paint scheme. Coming up next is 2568. Again, and I mean, it really goes without saying, Southern Pacific, we get a lot of feedback on. We get a lot of requests for. And so that's why, if you're not an SP fan, you probably wonder, man, Athearn does a lot of Southern Pacific. Well, honestly, because our customers demand it and we continually sell out of it. So it's a very popular line. And I dare say it's probably more popular now than when Southern Pacific was its own entity. It's kind of like one of those things, you don't miss what you've got until it's gone. Here's 2568. This is a prototype picture. This was taken in May of 1979. It was in Dolores, California. It was taken by Russell Eslick, and it's looking mighty fine there. It's a sharp looking paint scheme on a sharp locomotive. By 1986, here's 2575, had that experimental merger paint scheme. I have to say personally, as far as merger paint schemes go, this was one of the best documented, one of the best executed. Everything just fell into place. The only missing thing was it never happened. But boy, you know, the planning and everything of how they did this, and personally, I always thought this was a really cool paint scheme. From the first time I saw it in 1986 until today, I still think this would have been a really cool railroad had it happened. Now, this was based on you. This was based on your demand and the Athearn product suggestion. So we went ahead and obliged by offering this paint scheme for you. And here's the real deal, 2575. This picture was taken by MS McDowell in July of 1987. So it's still looking pretty sharp in its one-year-old paint scheme. And then the final road number in this series, 2577, again, 1970s paint scheme. Now, Southern Pacific does have its own features from the rest. It too is going to have flexicoil trucks. It's going to have a whip antenna, a large fuel tank, MU hoses, frame-mounted handrails, Nathan P3 horn, the Southern Pacific light package, and footboards where appropriate, meaning that they're only going to be included on the model if the prototype had the footboards. Now, here's one I know somebody in the audience is going to be excited about. Mr. Reynolds, this is for you. It's been a while since we've done a Southern locomotive, and another paint scheme that is just a strikingly simple, but again, striking paint scheme. Now, the Southern owned a small group of SW1500s that were acquired from the KIT and carried two-digit numbers. Modifications done by the road included a switch to frame-mounted handrails and the addition of a firecracker antenna. Units 74 through 76 were often spotted on assignment in both Kentucky and Tennessee. Now, these are based on mid-1980s paint schemes. Here we have Southern Railway number 74L. Coming up next is 75H. And 76A. Now, some of the features that this model will have that are exclusively for the Southern: flexicoil trucks, firecracker antenna, large fuel tank. This one does not have MU hoses. They were not fitted with MU hoses. You'll notice too the long handrails. These go all the way down the side of the sill. They're going to have Nathan P3 horns, and the footboards on both ends will have been removed. So Southern fans, here is your chance. You can add 3 of these to your collection. You can pre-order these before December 30th. Now, coming up next is another one that a lot of folks probably didn't see coming. Neat little short line. The Minneapolis, Northfield, and Southern. EMD order number 4506 consisted of a pair of SW1500s for shortline operator, the Minneapolis, Northfield, and Southern Railway. Now, constructed in 1966, the units were equipped with MU capability and were often found running together or with an SW1200. So we're offering both number 36 and number 37. This is based on their as they appeared in 1970s. So here's number 36 and number 37. Features just for the MNS Railroad. These are going to have flexicoil trucks, firecracker antenna. These have a small fuel tank. Unlike the other ones that have had large fuel tanks up until now, this has a small fuel tank. These do have MU hoses. These have the hood-mounted handrails. Here's something really cool, especially if you go with the Economy sound decoder, dual Hancock air whistles. Those are kind of a unique sound. Small plow on the front and footboards on the rear pilots. Again, those are all features just for the Minneapolis, Northfield, and Southern. And then last but certainly not least is another one that we got a lot of requests for, the Frisco. Frisco continues to have a very strong following. Here we have number 317. This is a 1970s era paint scheme. Also number 329, again, 1970s paint scheme. Now, just so happens I have a picture here from Harold Zier of 329. Taking a ride on the turntable with 327. This was captured in June of 1972. So 329 there. Obviously one of the ones that we're offering in this round. And then the last one that we're offering in Frisco is 336. Now the features that will be included with the Frisco units will be, this one is the only one out of the group that has ARR trucks with Timken bearings. Doesn't have the flexicoil trucks. It will have a firecracker antenna, however, large fuel tank, MU hoses, frame-mounted handrails, a small single chime horn, and if you have elected to get the DCC with sound or the Economy decoder, the cab Stratolite beacon will function in DCC mode. And this will have footboards on both ends. So a neat little switcher. This is perfect for you guys that maybe you have a really large layout, but you need something for your branch line, your industrial district, or even just your yard. This is a great little switcher to get that job done. For your operations night, you could set up a crew with one of these switchers and get the job done. Maybe if you're like myself and you don't have a room for a big layout, you can use one as a dedicated shelf switching layout. So we have got a little bit of time here. Let's see what kind of questions you folks have about the SW1500. I'm pretty excited about it. Whenever we do the switchers, they seem to do really well. which tells us there's a lot of guys looking for switchers right now. So let's go into the comments and see what kind of questions we've got. All right. Randall says, us Frisco fanatics are feasting well this year. Well, we got a lot of feedback from our Athearn product suggestion. And that is why we're seeing so many. A lot of you guys have been asking for these. Late Night Model Railroad, he says, Kodachrome is my favorite diesel era paint scheme. In fact, my very first modern diesel locomotive was a Genesis GP39-2 with a Kodachrome painted for Santa Fe, and it got me hooked on diesels. If you haven't seen Late Night Model Railroad's YouTube channel, check it out. He is a absolute craftsman when it comes to building smaller layouts. He's got some great ideas, and I'm familiar with his GP39-2. Glad he likes that paint scheme. It's one of my favorites too. And maybe, who knows, maybe we'll see a Kodachrome SW1500 in a future video. Brian adds to the conversation by saying, I don't personally model them, but I have to say the Southern and Frisco are nice paint schemes. Yeah, they are. They really are. Very sharp. You know, even if Norfolk Southern went back to that paint scheme, man, that would look so much better on their modern equipment. Randall noticing the picture I showed earlier, coupled nose to nose, a common practice in Frisco days. I can say I have not operated a full-scale SW1500. I have operated an NW2, and I can definitely say it's a lot easier seeing out the cab end than it is looking down that long hood. And the visibility is certainly better. So a lot of railroads did do that. They would go nose to nose. A lot of fans on board tonight with the Frisco. Let's see. Bobby's really excited about those Southern units. Thank you, Athearn. Well, thank you, Bobby. If you were one of the guys that wrote into our Athearn product suggestion email, that's for you. You know, again, I say it a lot on every show, and you'll probably see me comment on social media about it. That's really our lifeline. We want to know what you guys are modeling and what roads you'd like to see. So the Athearn product suggestion email that I talk about all the time, that is our lifeline. That goes straight to product development. When it's time for a new project, product development can go in there and say, you know what, it's time to do a new locomotive. What roads are people asking for? And that gives us the opportunity to make a model that you've been asking for. I'm going back a little bit just to see if there's anything else. And then we'll go forward to see any other questions. So again, you've got until the end of December, which is the 30th. You got a full month, but don't delay because these are going to go quick. And I can tell you in the past when we've had the switchers, especially in schemes like the Kodachrome, the Southern Pacific, the Southern, the Frisco, and of course, even the M&S, these are going to go quick. So don't leave it up to chance. Talk to your dealer, whether you have a dealer online that you deal with, or you have the opportunity to visit with your dealer in person. Do a pre-order. Save yourself the disappointment of not getting one of these a year from now. All right. Remaster Railroading. Definitely want to see Amtrak's SW1500. That may be a future release. You never know. Ron R. wants to know, didn't Union Pacific SW1500s have a strobe light on the cabs of the SW1500 end cabs, and center cab units are awesome? So depends on the era. A lot of those UPY switchers that we've done in the past, those yard switchers, especially if they're remote control, they're going to have those strobes. They're going to have two sets of strobes on the cab. For this run, the 1990s era, they did not have those. All right, well, let's get to the next segment, and that is our beverage truck. And this is also under the Athearn line. This is Athearn HO. It's been a little bit since we've offered this. Now, here's the JoJo's chocolate drink truck that we offered way back, almost 10 years ago. This was announced in December 2016, and it was delivered in 2017. And so it was time to offer this truck again. Now, one of the things I want you to look at is just some of the detail that these HO scale trucks have. I mean, look at the print. Now, this is, keep in mind, this is from 2013. So you know the new version is going to be even better. But all those subtle details are going to be there. They're going to have a full interior. They're going to have rubber tires. I mean, even the marker lights. You can see the amber on the marker lights, the cab marker lights. And these were real common right in through the 70s. They were really common in the 60s. Now, the Ford C Series is a range of trucks that was assembled by Ford between 1957 all the way to 1990, believe it or not. That's quite a stretch. These were extremely popular for Ford Motor Company. They were produced as both a straight, rigid truck and as a tractor. A wide range of versions of the C Series were produced. The C Series was also used as a basis for fire apparatus production. You know, as a kind of side note, if you go onto YouTube and look up some old videos of Chips, you know, the old motorcycle cop show from the 70s into the 80s, you'll see so many Ford C tractor trailers. It's ridiculous. I think most of them ended up on that series, but any of those TV shows from the 70s and 80s, you're going to see these Ford C trucks. So if you're modeling the 1960s all the way to 1990, you're definitely going to want to pick up one or two of these. Now, the Hackney Brothers Body Company, they were founded in 1852 in Nash County, North Carolina. They were a coach and wagon maker. In later years, they manufactured ambulances, refrigerated trucks, and school buses. The company was closed by the end of 1996, and operations were consolidated with a holding of TTI, Hackney and Sons Incorporated, based in Washington, North Carolina. This was founded by grandson of the founder of Hackney Brothers Body Company in 1946. So what that means is the Athearn Beverage trailer that you see hooked up to the Ford C tractor, this is based on a Hackney trailer. So what are we releasing this time on tractor trailers? Well, coming up first is a hazmat version of the truck. Now, this is really cries out to 70s, 1980s. This was back when fire departments were experimenting with different colors other than just red. This was a visibility experiment that extended from the 70s into the 80s, in some places even to the 90s, where they tried to use this high-vis yellow or high-vis green. So this would be perfect for your layout if you're modeling the 1980s and you have a larger layout that has a city. You might want to have a hazmat. Well, here you go. Likewise, here's another hazardous material squad. More of a common red paint scheme. This would be more at home into your late 60s, into your early 1970s. And then we actually get into beverage vehicles. Now we're going to do another run of the JoJo chocolate flavored drink. Definitely a 1960s era paint scheme. And these would look great if you guys that have grocery distributors, stores, even if you just want to put one on your highway, whether it be a module or a home layout. Here we've got Old Colony root beer. Again, a nice 1960s era. You could probably stretch that into the early 70s. And back by popular demand. Remember a couple of months ago, we did some Penguin Ginger Ale trucks. Well, we wanted to do the Penguin Ginger Ale tractor trailers because the trucks were such a hit. It's obvious you guys really like the Penguin. It's not a real brand. It's just something the Athearn creative team made up, but it's been a hit. So maybe in an alternate timeline, if you're modeling the 1960s, this would be a great thing to add to your grocery distributor. We also got Black Horse Ale. Yes, it is a real beer. You can do a quick study on it by doing a quick Wikipedia search. But Black Horse Ale, yes, it does. It did exist. I'm not sure if you can still get it anymore. It's gone through a series of buyouts and mergers and such. But this would be perfect for you guys that are modeling 1960s. So again, with these trucks, you have until Friday, December 30th to place your pre-orders. Talk to your dealer before then, and you will be more than happy with your selections. So that's all I've got for you tonight. I've got time to answer a few of your questions. I'm looking at the comments in here and seeing what we've got. So Bradley wants to know, was a hazmat tractor trailer prototypical? There's certainly a little bit of creative exploits going on there, but yes, there have been in the past a tractor trailer hazmat truck like that. That's not based on any one prototype, so you're gonna have to, you know, put that in your timeline accordingly. But it is based on vehicles that have appeared in that look. It has happened in the real world. How about Coke and Pepsi? How about a license? Honestly, those guys, their licensing fees would be so high, it would not be beneficial for us as a manufacturer, or certainly beneficial for you as a consumer. They would be a lot higher. Maybe someday, but not right now. Ian says a Molson export ale trailer would look real nice. Well, that sounds like a great idea. If you want to go ahead and put that suggestion in our Athearn product suggestion email, next time we run these trucks, we might actually run your idea. Kevin says, you used to make Coca-Cola branded items. Yes, we did. Again, licensing. Licensing's everything. While I'm on licensing, we get a lot of questions, especially since we brought out the Ford C's again. When are you guys going to do modern trucks? When are you going to do Max? When are you going to do Peterbilts? When are you going to do fill in the blank? A couple of things we are working on, adding some new vehicles to our fleet. However, one of the things that is the biggest hurdle for any manufacturer is dealing with the licensing department. Now, dealing with the licensing department requires working with attorneys, both attorneys internal at Horizon Hobby, as well as the attorneys with the brand that we're working with. And unfortunately, just the way things are, it's not something that happens overnight. So it is something that we're working on. Fortunately, I'm not going to have anything at the snap of my fingers. So try to be patient. We are working on that. In the meantime, we're offering you some favorites that we've offered in the past, sometimes in new paint schemes. All right. Going back to see if there's any other questions on Sid's asking about what's the current shipping delays. Well, the shipping delays are everywhere, not just Athearn. We are starting to see some things come in. One of the containers actually came into our distribution center about late last week. So some of the things that you've been waiting for are coming in. I can tell you that if you have been waiting for the GP38-2s, you'll probably see those the first week of January. Something else that's exciting is the CN Heritage units that we announced last year, or actually 2 years ago. They came into stock last spring. The Heritage units of the SD70M-2s did not meet our initial quality control. So we sent those back to the factory. The factory has corrected them, and they'll be here right at the first of the year. So that first week of January, you guys have the Heritage units on order. You'll have those, and I'm sure you're going to be really happy about that. Keep track of our website. I posted something about the SD70M-2s on Friday, and a lot of you guys asked questions about when does this due, when's that due. I try to answer those the best of my ability. Do keep in mind there are some projects that have had some unforeseen delays, but we'll try to keep you updated accordingly. So BN Green's got a good question slash comment. He says, Jim, it looks like SW1500s will have Economy decoders. I hope that the run announced a year ago will still have Tsunami. That is my decoder standard. I've got green one on order. So yes, what he's referring to is about last year. In fact, I believe it was last December. We announced a run of SW1500s. As you know, there were some shortages with some electronic components. And so those SW1500s, those were the first ones that we offered with the capability of sound, and they included the Tsunami. Now that's not going to change. Those are still going to be built as we advertise with them. So they will have Tsunami. To give you guys a little bit of a price break on the Athearn HO versions that we're announcing this run, we're going to give you the Economy decoders. All right, let me see if there's any other questions. You guys have quite a few. I'm just trying to see which ones I can answer here real quickly. Tyler wants to know, I'm wondering if there would be an original WC painted SW1500 and some CN repainted versions with the WC sub lettering. It would be awesome to see. Do you know if they're coming soon? Well, no, they're not going to be coming soon because you need to get those thoughts and ideas into the Athearn product suggestion email. That is our, like I said, that is our source for getting new ideas. And it sounds like a great idea that you have, but we're going to need you to get that into the Athearn product suggestion. All right, I'm going to see. I've got time for maybe one more question. Ron's got a suggestion saying, I'm still waiting for Athearn to make the EMD DT35A, and the DD35B would be a nice companion to your existing DD40AX. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Jay Cure was one of the cool kids in school. His first vehicle was a 67 Bronco. Much better than my first vehicle. We do have a pretty good license with Ford, obviously, so it's a possibility. Now, one thing I want to let you guys know, too, before I sign off for the night, for anybody that's going to the Amherst Society Model Railroad Show, that's coming up the last weekend of January 2023. Athearn's going to be there. In fact, I'm going to be there. Our lead developer, John Stackpole, is going to be there. And our category manager, Mark, you might have seen Mark at some of the other shows. He's going to be there as well. I personally am looking forward to it because, of course, that's my area. That's where I live. And I'm going to be excited to see some of the historical societies, such as the Boston and Maine Historical Society. And more importantly, get a chance to meet some of you guys on the East Coast. So we're going to be there January, I believe it's 28th and 29th. Watch our website, watch our social media feed for updates, but we're going to be there all weekend. Really looking forward to it. And we're really looking forward to kicking off the 2023 train show season. All right. Well, that looks like that's it. I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you for joining us on board. And remember, everything that we talked about tonight, you have until Friday, December 30th to place your pre-orders. So talk to your dealer online. If you got a dealer in your area, talk to him. You're going to want to get these pre-ordered. These switchers are not going to last. And again, we picked some really cool paint schemes on those Ford C tractors. They're not going to last long either. So just go ahead and get your pre-orders in. Until next time, everybody, be happy, be healthy, be safe, do some good modeling, and above all, high greens, everyone. Good night.